Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So I'm starting this video for tomorrow. The video came up my toolbar, JD Vance lying about that stuff he said about Trump, not not being aware on all that stuff he said in the exchange about Signal. And I got a couple of comments of people who were obviously Trumpers, who were upset that I was covering this thing as much as I was. And it is a watershed event for a couple of reasons. And, I've said this a while back. Either Trump is a genius and Trump is everything he says he is, or he's a worthless POS who is an incompetent grifter. Like, there's no middle ground here, right? Trump is going for it in a radical way that we've never seen from any other president before. I mean, in my lifetime, there's never been a president even close to doing as much radical. He's taking extreme action. The tariffs, talking shit about every foreign country. I mean, threatening war, threatening Russia now, threatening Ukraine, talking shit about the leaders there. Greenland, wanting to annex Greenland, changing the name of Gulf of Mexico, the bizarre tariffs. Going like really in on the tariffs, doing whatever he's doing. The deportation of people, the stuff that he's trying to do across the board. He's doing a lot of things at once, and all of them are untested. And, people actually know how these things are going to turn out, and they're experts in these fields. Many of them competent are saying, yeah, these are disastrous acts. So Trump either has to be some visionary genius or some messiah type person, once in a lifetime, brilliant man who gets exactly what the government, coming in with no experience. Going on the Joe Rogan show and saying he was a business guy and he didn't understand how to be president. Like, he straight up said that. And he didn't know how Washington works, and now he does. He's figured it out, right? And, all the stuff he says and the way people say he's playing 5D chess and all that shit that they say, he's dumb. Like, Trump has always been dumb. He's a failure. He's run his companies into the ground. He wasn't even good at The Apprentice. That was all smoke and mirrors. Like, he wasn't even, the way they presented The Apprentice was Trump was closely monitoring these people, these contestants. And, what he said when he was talking about the reporter being bored, listening in to all that military stuff, he was talking about himself. Just like when Alec Baldwin imitates Trump, Alec Baldwin is just exaggerating his own personal idiosyncratic behaviors that he's masking as Trump. That's why he did such a horrible impression, because he was actually just doing an extreme version of himself with his ducky lips and all that shit, right? When Trump says that guy was bored, it's because Trump is bored. He's not a curious person. He's not interested in listening to other people. He's ill-informed, and he makes a lot of ill-informed decisions. He doesn't have good intuition. And, when he would do The Apprentice, they would just come out and read a script. He wouldn't interact really with the people. He didn't watch they would do these challenges, right? They would have these tasks. And there was two teams, and they would be pitted against each other. And Trump would get the money from the tasks. So they would get a vendor who wanted to advertise on this show, because it was a very popular show. It was a well-made show, edited brilliantly by Mark Burnett. And Trump wouldn't even watch these guys do their challenges, do their tasks. And he was supposed to come up with who he was supposed to fire. They told him who to fire. And sometimes he'd just go off script, and they'd have to rewrite the whole show. This stuff has all come out, right? Like, he's a fucking idiot, right? And he's convinced all these Trumpers that he's somehow some visionary genius. And now he's taken a sledgehammer to the economy and everything, foreign policy, everything. And he's doing stupid shit across the board, and it would be hilarious, and it still kind of is hilarious. But he's going to do what he's done time and time again in business and his personal life, with his marriages and his relationships. He's going to run these things into the ground. Trump has people who were close to him, whether it's his ex-wives or people who work for him, who have all turned on him because he turns on them, right? Trump throws them under the bus. He treats them like shit, and he wrecks things, right? He breaks things, he wrecks things, he goes bankrupt, he destroys shit. And so you can see it so evident with these people he's hired, these boneheads he's hired, and the Signal debacle is just the tip of the iceberg of his incompetence. It's kind of hilarious, like I said, but it shows you the guy is just full of shit, right? And I got a few comments saying how bad Biden and Kamala Harris were, and they wrecked the economy, which isn't correct because the economy has been, we've been going into debt for years. I first started making these videos back in 2014 when I got my first glimpse of the national debt clock. I think it was at, well, let me just go check. It says 17 billion, but that was at the end of 2014. It was, I think, around 14 billion when I looked at it. Trillion, I'm sorry. 14 trillion. And it's more than doubled since then, right? So in less than 10 years, it's doubled. And, well, I guess more than 10 years now. It's more than doubled. I mean, doubled would be 34 trillion, right? It's up to 36. But anyways, it's going to be quite a bit more than that by the end of this year. Another 2 trillion at least, more to come. And so, I saw how fucked we were. Like the economy, it wasn't any president's fault. Like no one can fix this problem. We're simply spending more than we're bringing in. And have been doing that for, the past, 20 years. I mean, the national debt's been there for a while, but now it's, extraordinary. And it's just, it's snowballed. And so it isn't Biden's fault or Kamala Harris' fault or Trump's fault. It's all their faults, but it's everybody's fault, right? It's just, the failure of the American economy and the debt-based user economy, the global debt-based user economy. This is what happens. And so Trump left Biden with a mess, and Obama left Trump with a mess, and it's been passed forward. And Biden sucked. I mean, he sucked on lots of levels. He was certainly senile. They ran a bunch of their shit. They looted. They did all those things. Trump did the same stuff, right? And so Trump has been saying to everybody that Biden was the worst president in history, and he was going to fix all these things. And the biggest thing that people wanted him to fix was grocery prices and inflation. And Trump's gone the opposite direction because it's a proven fact that tariffs add to inflation, right? So, that's what he's done. And so, who gives a shit if Biden's done, Kamala Harris is done, they're never going to be elected again. The Democrats might be in power in 4 years. But right now, Trump has this straight path to do everything they wanted to do and promised to do or thought he would do. And, all these things, every idea he's ever had, everything that these people around him have, this whole agenda 2025, they're rolling it out. And it's a fucking disaster, right? And it's going to show up as soon as the things start kicking in. As soon as these things start having results, and they're not going to, some of them are going to be sooner than later, some will take a little bit more time. But people realize, oh my God, these are all disastrous acts. And, it's better to do nothing than do massive damage. And so, like I said, he's either a genius and he just gets it and he's brilliant, he's a visionary, and there's no evidence that he's ever been that ever. He's always been an ass clown, a moron. He's not smart. When he talks, he's not smart. He faked his assassination attempt. I mean, it should be obvious to everybody now that all that shit was fake and staged because, there's no follow-up on it. He doesn't even talk about it anymore. I mean, he literally doesn't talk about something that, when it was his biggest moment in the campaign. It was his biggest success when he got up there and yelled, fight, 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 like he didn't yell it. He mouthed the words, fight, 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 while it was, all this stuff was going on. And that was like feeding red meat to his followers, and it was so fake and so WWE. The fact that all these people fell for it, even most people in the truth community, is just sad. But in reality, he's just a fucking bum, right? He always has been that. He's a guy who's good at convincing people to trust him and believe in him, and that's it. No other qualities, no other insights, no other great ideas, no entrepreneurial spirit. Just a guy who's all smoke and mirrors and finds a way to keep on. After he runs one company, one business into the ground after another, keeps finding a way to get people to give him money and prop him up financially, and he's going to get that personally. But he can't do that for America. He can't grift the whole world to prop America up, right? I mean, the whole world wants no part of him, and they're all calling him on his fucking bluff as he idiocracies his way through his presidency, and it's over. I want to get to this thing. Hopefully I'll do this tomorrow first with this thing with J.D. Vance throwing Trump under the bus. when he threw Trump under the bus in that leaked signal thing, which again, I don't think it was intentionally leaked because it made a lot of people look bad. Unless they just are testing the water or seeing how much shit they can get away with, I don't know. But either way, it's kind of hilarious. And J.D. Vance is a fucking disaster in Greenland. We'll get to a little bit of his press conference. But anyways, let me wrap this thing up here, and I'll continue on tomorrow. Okay, so today's Monday, March 31st. And to add what I was saying in the voiceover from yesterday, Trump's either a genius or an idiot. He can't be both, right? He's not some savant. Like he oftentimes when people, it's like when Michael Jordan went to play baseball, he wasn't as good as baseball. You see these people who tried something new, celebrities and, athletes or whatever. They try to do something else where, it takes some artistry or something, and they just don't have it, right? It's not transferable. And there's always this idea that people have that an outsider can come in and just change everything. Like that's the whole Trump thing. It's long been believed by people, especially on the right and the far left, that you can bring in some outsider who's not a part of the Washington, D.C. problem. But it's a club. The Washington, D.C. It's a club that involves the media, involves the intelligence communities, it involves the businesses and the lobbyists and all these people. They have a system rigged, corrupted, right? And so that some guy could come in, some guy with some good old-fashioned horse sense and, business sense like Trump could come in and change anything. It can't be done, right? You can't change. There's these I don't want to call it archetype isn't the right word, but there's these structures, these political structures or religious structures. It's like a new pope. The stuff when the Catholicism has been, it's just embedded, right? It's like there's a structure there that a new guy can't come in and change, right? It's like a new king. It's like, Prince William coming in and changing all the things that they've done before. It's not going to happen. They have the firm, which is a social structure. It's a construct. And, all the people in it can't change it, right? You can't go into these institutions and change them because they have established gatekeepers. They've established protocols. They've established all these roadblocks for you to change. The system itself will chew you up and spit you out because it's just that way. Like it's just, it's simple. It's not something that, what I'm saying here makes total sense because it's true, right? That all these systems, no matter what it is, the medical system, there's a lot of structure, a lot of gatekeepers, a lot of protocols in place to make sure someone doesn't come in and mess it up. Any criminal organization, they have ways to make sure that it stays a criminal organization, right? They have ways to make sure you're not changing things. You might invest in some other things, you might branch out, but the very structure of the corruption stays the same. Like, because people are getting paid, right? It's how they're getting their income. There's a natural aspect where if you're showing up every day to prime hunting grounds or prime foraging grounds, right? You're going to do whatever it takes, like as an animal I'm talking about, to continue that, So people have established territorial, rights, and they do what they can to preserve their income, how they're surviving, how they're thriving or whatever it is. And so this idea that Trump could come in and do something different is just silly. It was never a possibility. It's just some stupid idea people have. We just get some outsider. When people are sick and tired of the politicians and they've lost faith in the political system, the politicians know it doesn't matter because you can't come in and change it. You don't have another option. Like you can either vote for the Democrats or Republicans or waste your vote on something else. Not that you're wasting your vote because it doesn't matter. Your vote's meaningless. But so it doesn't matter if you dislike the Republicans. The majority of people hate the Republicans or hate Trump. Well, who's the person that's going to be better on the other side, right? And so they know this. Like you have to go back and forth between either one of these two, corrupt parties. and so they have a monopoly on it. It's a, you know, it's a, they're part of, and they're owned by the same people. So anyway, with that in mind, this fucking thing happened with J.D. Vance.
Countries, as they expand their ambitions, we can't just bury our head in the sand, or in Greenland, bury our head in the snow and pretend that the Chinese are not interested in this very large landmass. We know that they are. They've taken steps to put Greenland in ridiculous debt traps to invest and exploit the resources here. And we know that they're sending a lot of military resources here. Yes, over the medium term, the United States will meet that challenge. We will put our own resources here. We already have a lot of great resources here, but we know we're going to have
what resources?
Have to do more to counter some of our some of the nations that we know that we're competitive with. Sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. And the president said today that we have to have
It's not. It's coming up. What I want to show you.
Greenland. By being here today, are you also conveying that message that the U.S. is very serious in its desire to...
So no one in Greenland wanted to meet with him. Like, he's getting kind of humiliated. They don't want any part of him. The people there, and, you know, it's like 40,000 people. It's like, you know, some small amount of people there, whatever it is. We're not talking about millions. It's cold as shit. It's like frozen most of the year. I mean, it's a harsh place to live. And, you know, I mean, there's still tons of snow there. I mean, they're not going to see any kind of, you know, the stuff that lives there. I mean, that in terms of trying to have livestock and all these things, you know, they have a short window for growing season, and they have whatever resources. It's just you know, it's basically part of a North Pole. It's a frozen landmass, right?
Acquire Greenland?
Well, the president said we have to have Greenland, and I think that we do have to be more serious about the security of Greenland. We can't just ignore this place. We can't just ignore the president's desires, but most importantly,
we can't ignore the president's desires? What the fuck are you talking about? The president's fucking desires? You know, it's owned by Denmark. They have a relationship. This is a European, you know, situation there. He shits on Europe somewhere earlier, too. I'll go back and try to find that. But, you know, like, the attitude here, I mean, it's just like, fuck you to everybody else but America. And America first, and yet we're going to dump all this money into Greenland. And, you know, like I said, it isn't going to benefit you. Like, the stuff that they're doing will benefit, like, military-industrial complex. And if they're finding resources they want to receive to harvest in corporate resources and Trump's rich buddies, and Trump getting a kickback, like that kind of thing, right? It ain't ownership of Greenland isn't going to trickle down to you. Like you are just going to spend. They're going to spend your money, you know, more debt that's, you know, American debt on Greenland. That's what's going to happen, and it's your money they're going to spend on Greenland for no reason. Like, you know, and you're not going to. I mean, you're not even going to go there to vacation. You might go to Gaza, right? It'd just be crazy. But, like, there's nothing there for you personally. It's a frozen landmass, right? Whatever they're doing doesn't help you at all. Like, they're saying they're going to defend America. America's fucked. I mean, if China's making military moves, what they're saying here is China wants to install a military base and a naval base in Greenland. And Greenland is fairly close to America's east coast. And enough so that, you know, China would have... I mean, China's buying up land everywhere. They have land fucking in America, right? And so if China making a play for America, either militarily or economically, it's already fucked. And a lot of these people are already on Chinese payroll, including Elon fucking Musk, right? We'll get into that clown in a second, wearing a fucking cheese head, right? I mean, the guy's a fucking tool. The whole thing is, like, hilarious. But we haven't even got to the main point here.
We can't ignore what I said earlier, which is the Russian and Chinese encroachment in Greenland. We have to do more. And what the president said in his State of the Union address, and he was very clear about this, is we respect the self-determination of the people of Greenland. But my argument again to them is I think that you'd be a lot better coming under the United States security umbrella than you have been under Denmark's security umbrella. Because what Denmark's security umbrella has meant is effectively they've passed it all off to brave Americans and hope that we would pick up the tab. We're simply saying to the people of Greenland, when the president says we've got to have Greenland, he's saying this island is not safe. A lot of people are interested.
So the thing is, I believe it's called Bretton Woods. You know, this idea, this meeting that took place, I think it was Truman, I don't know. It's like in the 40s, 50s, something like this, right before Vietnam. And this is when America was given the world reserve currency, which meant that we had an economic power like no other country, which is why we have a fourth of the world's resources. It's a good deal for America. But the payment was that American immigrants and American youth that were, you know, not college graduates, but people who were, you know, laborers, would act as Europe's military. Like Europe was sick of fighting. They'd been fighting for years, and they, you know, small countries and whatever. And America would have this vast country where there'd be all these immigrants and people who needed to get a leg up. Many of them would join the military. And America would be the military of this, you know, this region, this area. And that was the deal. And Trump can say he wants to renegotiate the deal, but then you're going to lose the status of world reserve currency. It isn't like they have no leverage in the deal. You know, Trump is used to bullying people who have no leverage. And these other countries certainly have leverage, certainly Europe and these other, you know, mega rich countries. And they're, you know, they're much more mature, and they're, you know, they have more experience, and they can see through Trump's, you know, Trump's bullshit and his stuff. And so, you know, renegotiating this deal isn't a thing that's going to benefit America, right? Whatever it might be. And we can say we're not going to do security for this, for Europe, but then we don't serve a purpose for them. Like, who's going to do security? They'll make a deal with Russia, or they'll make a deal with China, and America will be on the way out, right? So, not that I'm claiming, you know, that I'm saying the deal with Europe is, or NATO is essential, you know, but we don't, like, again, we're in debt in a way that at any time, any of these, like, financial gurus, which, you know, London is the financial capital of the world, they can turn on America in a second and make us into paupers, right? Like, they can, you know, say America's done, you know, their debt is too out of hand, whatever. You know, so they can sell American dollars. They can do all kinds of things. And they could stop respecting the petrodollar, buy oil with other, you know, European monies, or, you know, what Gaddafi was doing with the gold dinar. I mean, any ways they can screw America. The petrodollar, as soon as that's done, Americans' dollar will be so inflated. So there's economic warfare that can be done. There's all kinds of things. And the fact that they know they can't sustain American lifestyle. That's the big one. Your lifestyle is not sustainable. You can't, you know, America is too resource heavy. And, you know, they want to reduce the population. I mean, it's real issues that are beyond their control, and they have to deal with it, right? So, you know, I've talked about this, you know, in so many videos. So, you know, at some point, they're going to say, fuck you to America. And now is a good time as any, because Trump's saying fuck you to everybody else, right? And so, you know, it's not going to work out well, because, you know, they already want to dump America.
A lot of people are making a play. We know that America cares about the security of this island for the sake of the people of Greenland, but also for the sake of the national security interests of the United States of America. So our message is very...
Don't pretend we care about the Greenland people. Nobody in America gives a shit about... We don't even know what language they speak. We know nothing about Greenland. When I was a kid, I had to do a report on a country, and I somehow got Iceland, which I found very interesting. You know, they named Iceland because it was green. You know, they have glaciers there. They have much better climate. It's a much better place. And they named Greenland because they wanted people to go there, even though it was a freaking frozen massive. I mean, it's a tough place to live, especially back then, where there's no imports. Like, now they can import things. But other than, you know, I'm sure they do good in terms of fishing and, you know, things like that. But, you know, I mean, but even then, how, you know, there's icebergs and shit floating around out there. You know, like it's the Titanic out there, right? So.
Very simple. Yes, the people of Greenland are going to have self-determination. We hope that they choose to partner with the United States because we're the only nation on earth that will respect their sovereignty and respect their security, because their security is very much our security, as these brave Americans showed.
John Parkinson with ABC News. Thanks for bringing us along on this historic trip. I wanted to ask you about last week's news with the Atlantic. We've had a couple questions on Greenland. I feel like you've answered that. But I did want to ask, did you
Let me put this closed captions on here.
express your concerns to the president that you were opposed to the Houthi strike? And also, what did you mean when you asked, or when you said in that thread that the president wasn't aware that his directions for Yemen were inconsistent with his message on Europe?
Well,
Okay, so that was an excellent question, right? What he's asking there, like, he had concerns. He didn't think the Yemen strike was necessary and it was in their best interest, and that the president wasn't aware that we weren't, that the Suez Canal and that area over there, we weren't. It wasn't really all that important to our imports and things like this, American interests, but it was really important for Europe. So it was, again, us spending our money and doing our shit and exercising our military force that would benefit Europe. And he mentioned how Europe were freeloaders, and I know that they didn't want. I assume they didn't want that message to get out there, even though they're saying this stuff in public. So like, if it was intentional, it was completely botched, and it makes no sense it was intentional. But these guys are so incompetent, you don't really know. But he asked him exactly, the way he stated this, the question was very consistent with what J.D. Vance said, right? That Trump was unaware, didn't know what was going on, that he didn't know he was contradicting his own European attitudes, like fuck Europe and make them pay, they're freeloaders, like that's what he said, and that he didn't feel like it was a good idea to go there. He was resistant to doing the strike. And so this is what J.D. Vance is going to say to that truthful question.
I didn't quite say that. I think that's a slight misunderstanding of what I...
No, it isn't. It's exactly what you fucking said. See, this is why I doubt that they wanted this released, because it makes Trump... The whole thing made Trump look like he's not involved, that he doesn't give a shit, that he says shit like, oh, go do this, and don't tell me the details. And they go do shit, and oftentimes it's impulsive, and he's not even aware he said it, because he says a lot of shit like that, and he doesn't, like he's just not thoughtful. He's not, there's a certain type of personality. My brother was like this, or my ex was like this, and you oftentimes have a boss like this that will tell you to do something, and they'll come in very strong. This has to be done this way, and this is whatever, and then. So you go and you're trying to please the person. You do what they ask you to do, right? They said to do something and you do it, and they've changed and they've reversed themselves almost to the opposite position, or they don't remember what they said, and you do the thing they do, and then they get pissed off at you for doing the thing that they wanted you to do in the first place. And when you're dealing with people like that, I mean, if it's somebody that, it's like your boss or some person in your life, you can't, it just sucks. But they suck to deal with. Like, it's just like, get rid of them. Like Trump will say something without really knowing anything about what he's saying, and then he'll change his mind, or the results of what he said, makes him look stupid. Like, he'll take a very stupid position, and then people who are, who know that the most important thing with Trump is unquestioning loyalty, will go out and do his bidding, and then Trump will throw them under the bus for doing the stupid thing he told them to do, right? Because he's a piece of shit. He's a weak piece of shit, right? And so, this thing that was leaked, it isn't, I mean, I'm sure J.D. Vance didn't want it to leak, or nobody. It made Trump look weak. It showed you the inner workings of the White House.
What I said, but we've talked, of course, in the American media about Signalgate, as I called it, for the past week. And here's what I told the president and the entire national security team, is that yes, it is in the interest of the United States of America to preserve navigation. Yes, it is in the interest of the United States to kill terrorists who are preventing navigation in the Red Sea. But we got to make sure that we do it right. We have to be careful. We have to make sure the timing is right.
That's not anything. You didn't say any of that shit. Like, you didn't say any of those things. Read the fucking text, bro. Like that. I mean, he can, to people who didn't read the text, but that's not what was said. You didn't say any of that shit, right? This is where I'm talking about. It's a clusterfuck. These are idiots. I mean, J.D. Vance is a lot smarter than Trump, but he's an idiot out there doing idiot shit, right? Like this stuff that's going on with Greenland, this whole thing. They're all over the fucking place, right? They're fighting too many battles. They're going after too many things, and they're pissing too many different people off. And they're scaring people. They're scaring people like they're going to fuck up their livelihood. All these governments and people, they have their own scams. They're running their own fucking scams. They have all these deals they're making. And, America is threatening to undo these scams, right? Terrorists doesn't help any fucking body. If they come back with their own terrorists, that doesn't help them, right? Like those terrorists are, in terms of driving up prices, sure. I mean, for the companies that you're like steel companies, it's great. Like they're driving up prices. They're gonna, they're getting, they're putting, they're killing supply and increasing demand. So if you're steel people, you're like, fuck, you go with the tariffs, right? But other than that, the tariffs hurt various people, especially these politicians who aren't, unless they're getting kickbacks or something, of course, which they always are. But Trump is not a reasonable, rational person. The things that he's doing are just these, like I say, he's throwing shit up against the wall. Everyone can fucking see it, except for the Trumpers who are oblivious to this thing. But it's really fucking bad, right? Like it's he's completely going for it, but he's an idiot. So he's going for it, but it's stupid shit that he's doing.
And of course, what that leak revealed, I think, is a private communication between the president's senior advisors about how best to prepare the American people for what we all thought we had to do, about the right timing of when we should do something, and of course, surfacing the strategic questions that we needed to decide and brief the president on so that he could ultimately make the decision about what we would do. What I saw in that...
That's not at all any of those things. None of that shit is true. Not one word with that was true. We read the fucking text. Like, that's just political speak, right? Trump is trying to bully everybody and threaten everybody. He threatened Russia and Iran the other day, now Greenland and Denmark. These countries are going to call his bluff because deep down Trump's a pussy. I mean, one of the things that I was happy with Trump is he wasn't into war. Even though he said he was into war, he really wasn't. And I was glad for that, right? But, that guy, I mean, Trump, I think I think he's sensitive to these things. I don't know. He likes to watch MMA and some of that other stuff, so I don't know. He described them going in and killing that guy like a dog. Like you can hear that clip where they killed that so-called terrorist. We shot him like a dog. That guy. But they're going to call his bluff, and I don't think Trump's going to have. Trump's just used to winning by bullying, and I don't think he's going to know what to do. Right. And I think it's just, it's already unraveling. We're only 2 months in.
Signal chat. And of course, what I've seen in the president's senior national security team is that sometimes we all agree and sometimes we all disagree, but it's important that we all have an honest conversation amongst ourselves and with the president of the United States about what...
And an insecure app with a very liberal, possibly Mossad agent listening who's going to expose the whole thing. I mean, that's how we do fucking shit here.
We think is the best interest of the national security of the United States of America. I support the president's decision to strike the Houthis.
He didn't make a decision. Like, we saw the chat. You guys made the decision. That's a complete lie. Where was Trump's decision? Trump's chief of staff was in the meeting and did not say Trump says go, gives the go. There was no thought of that. It was you, it was Walsh, and it was Hegseth who were all talking about this, and the guy who directed the CIA. All four of you guys voiced your opinion about what should happen, and then you said, okay, go, it's a go, let's do it. And Hegseth was, everyone was like open to waiting, and then you came back and said it's a go. And so you'd say the president said it was a go. You said, okay, if you guys want to go ahead, let's do it. You said you guys to those people. I could pull up the chat. I don't need to because you guys have heard it. But I mean, that's, well, let's pull up the chat here. Okay, team, I'm out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan. This is J.D. Vance. But I think we are making a big mistake. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez, 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as POTUS said, to send a message, but I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. Meaning he's an idiot. He doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He's talking about the president because he's not there. There's further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I will support the consensus of the team. This team decision. This isn't Trump. He didn't order it. Like he just said, Trump ordered it. But the team's deciding. And so who has more of a vote? How they even determine who makes the decision? Like who's the decider here, right? Who's the decider? I keep these concerns to myself, but there's strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. So they didn't really have to do it immediately. And this is the guy from the CIA. No, this is from Tulsi Gabbard's guy. There's nothing time-sensitive driving this timeline. We have the exact same options in a month. The Israelis would likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish. Like, we're not talking about how Israel is a parasite. Israel's freeloading off of us. Israel's freeloading off of us more than Europe is, right? Again, there's a mutual decision, and Europe has its own, is much more economically. I mean, we're building Israel, and we're propping them up. But that's a minor factor. Is it a minor factor? I'll send up-class data pulled on BAM shipping. From the CIA perspective, we are mobilizing assets to support now, but a delay would not negatively impact us. Additional time would be used to identify better starting points for coverage on the Houthi leadership. And then, Excess, I understand your concerns and would fully support you raising with POTUS important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out economically, Ukraine, peace, Gaza, etc. I think message is going to be tough, though, no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we need to stay focused. Biden failed and Iran funded. These are the talking points that they're selling to American people, right? Because they don't need to do this. They have to sell this to you. They're doing this on behalf of Israel and I guess Europe now, and just as a show of force and send a message. Like Trump says, let's send a message. Let's bomb some motherfuckers, right? And, it's going to be kids and civilians being killed. And they may not even get the real targets, right? Waiting a few weeks or a month does not fundamentally change the calculus. Two immediate risks on waiting. This idea leaks. We look indecisive. Israel takes action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart, and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. So he's saying that, maybe we'll do this. I guess the reasons not to do it are here, but I'm not saying we should do it. We are prepared to execute. If I had the final go or no-go to vote, I believe we should. This is not about the Houthis. I see it as two things: restoring freedom of navigation, a core national interest, and reestablishing differences with deterrence, which the Bidens cratered. And so he's the one who says, let's do it, right? And he's the only one who says, let's do it. Everyone else says, we could delay if you want. And then so Trump, he comes back and says, says this, we could easily pause, and if we do, we can enforce 100% OPSEC. I welcome other thoughts. Again, not Trump's thoughts. And then Mike Waltz gives them the trade figures and say, no, actually, we do get more out of. There's a little of whatever. We do get more than 3%. And then per President's request, I'm working with the DOD and State Department how to determine and compile the costs associated and levy them on the Europeans. So they want to have Europe pay for this, right? Just build the wall and have the Mexicans pay for it, right? And so Mike Waltz comes back in with this. From his messaging standpoint, I absolutely add this out of horribles why the Europeans must invest in their defense. And then J.D. Vance comes back to Pete Hexas. If you think we should do it, let's go. The Trump didn't give the order. Trump didn't give the order. I just hate bailing out Europe again. There's a little fucking whine, right? So they actually believe in some of this bullshit, right? And so somewhere along here, the They talk about how great it went. And Susan Wiles, who's Trump's chief of staff, kudos to all, most particularly those in the theater and CENTCOM, really great, God bless. That's the first time she comments. So that's Trump's chief of staff. And his chief of staff doesn't say dick about what we should or shouldn't do because Trump is uninvolved and Trump lacks any sort of curiosity. And so none of the shit that J.D. Vance just spit in Greenland is true. It's the opposite of true. They made a collective decision. He said in the beginning, whatever the team decides, the team was making the decision. And it was unclear who was the person with he was the one who gave the final let's do it. So I guess it was him. It was the decider. And he was influenced by Hegseth. But he said, all right, let's do it. Okay, if you're going to do it, let's do it. I just hate bailing out Europe again. Fucking tools. And so it's all bullshit, right? None of this stuff is real. That he's saying is just complete bullshit. And this is why I don't think they wanted this to leak. The people said they leaked it intentionally. If this guy is in Mossad, the reporter, then they fucked him, right? Let's go back here a little bit.
About Signalgate, as I called it, for the past week. And here's what I told the president and the entire national security team is that, yes, it is in the interest of the United States.
You didn't tell your president. You're making it sound like the president was involved in this conversation. No, he wasn't. That's a fucking bold-faced lie. You said we were talking about the president like he wasn't there because he fucking wasn't there. And you weren't telling, can we talk to him about it? Because he's probably said, I don't fucking want to know. You guys just fucking handle this, right? Just you guys are in charge of handling this.
United States of America to preserve navigation. Yes, it is in the interest of the United States to kill terrorists who are preventing navigation in the Red Sea.
You didn't say that at all. You said it's only 3%, but Europe it's 20%. We're bailing out Europe again. I hate bailing out Europe again. That's what you said.
We have to make sure that we do it right. We have to be careful. We have to make sure the timing is right. And of course, what that leak revealed, I think, is a private communication between the president's senior advisors about how best to prepare the American people for what we all thought we had to do, about the right timing of when we should do something, and of course, surfacing the strategic questions that we needed to decide and brief the president on so that he could also...
You weren't briefing him on. Like, that's a lie. You're not briefing the motherfucker because he would have been there. Like he said, the reporter got bored. The reporter got bored and left the conversation. How did the fuck he doesn't know the reporter? Why would the reporter get bored? Everything that the people were saying is newsworthy. It's a major fucking scandal, right? This person first couldn't fucking believe it was happening. And then, sitting there, that's his fucking story. Like if he's in Mossad, then he knows exactly why it was happening, right? But let's say, and I don't believe he is because of the whole everything, but well, who fucking knows, right? But either way, as a reporter, sitting there and getting as much of this fucking dirt as possible, I mean, this is the biggest thing to happen to the Atlantic. You said Trump said the Atlantic is going out of business, that it's a failed magazine or whatever it is, right? These online sites. And so this is a bombshell for them. I mean, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened. You think this guy's not going to get a fucking raise or whatever for having this thing fall into his lap, right? And the biggest criticism that he left the chat early. But everything that he posted, I mean, I'm rereading the shit for you right now, and they're still asking about this over a week later. He got fucking bored? What are you talking about? You get bored. He got bored. I know what it is. It's so fucking boring when they're talking. So fucking boring. I'm going to go snort some fucking, what is it they Ritalin or whatever it is, right? He's like, he can't do it. Like Trump is bored by all this shit. Trump's bored all the time. That's why he doesn't answer questions because he's not somebody who looks into things, right? Like I know more about this shit than Trump does. Like I know more about what's going on and I don't, I'm not even interested. I don't like to read all this stuff, right? But these dry reports and these things and all this legal jargon, Trump he tells people to handle things. He doesn't want to know about them. He's not interested in them. That's why he can't answer the questions. And so to say we briefed the president, he's not getting briefed. They start trying to brief him. He's like, then he changes the subject, right? Or he dismisses the people. And so that's why these guys are in there without him, because he gets bored by this shit, right?
ultimately make the decision about what we would do. What I saw in that signal chat, and of course what I've seen in the President's senior national security team, is that sometimes we all agree and sometimes we all disagree, but it's important that we all have an honest conversation amongst ourselves and with the President of the United States about what we think is the best interest of the
But he wasn't there.
national security of the United States of America. I support the President's decision to strike the Houthis.
Okay, so that's bullshit, right? And I think he says something, I hope it's right here.
Pace. They haven't kept pace with military spending. And
Okay, so this is where he's shitting on Europe.
President Trump started talking about the importance of our Arctic mission, about building upon it, and ensuring that America can lead in the Arctic for the next generation. And now I want to talk about, of course, the interaction and what Denmark, I think, has done, and sometimes in partnership with us, but let's be honest, what Denmark over the last 20 years has failed to do in some cases, because we know that unfortunately this place, this base, the surrounding area is less secure than it was 30, 40 years ago because some of our allies haven't kept up. As China and Russia have taken greater and greater interest in Greenland, in this base, in the activities of the brave Americans right here, we know
Brave Americans.
Too often our allies in Europe have not kept pace. They haven't kept pace with military spending, and Denmark has not kept pace in devoting the resources necessary to keep this base, to keep our troops, and in my view, to keep the people of Greenland safe from a lot of very aggressive incursions from Russia, from China, and from other nations. Now, President Trump, as he said,
so these are the list of Trump's people that he's pissed off. Canada. Like fucking all of Canada. Trump's pissed off, Mexico. I mean, not nearly as bad. They seem to be more capitulating. But also Mexico. So the countries that border us are now almost to the point where there's going to be war. Trump, there's at least an economic war, trade war is happening. And then, possibly even another war. He wants to annex Canada. He wants to get them to get rid of their sovereign government and become a state, right? Like that's one war he's fighting. Fucking Panama. The Panama Canal, and that may or may not be a good thing. Changing the name of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, again, pissing off Mexicans, and then just what the fuck kind of thing going across the globe, right? Talking shit about all of Europe in regards to this thing with Greenland and to do with the Ukraine-Russian war. Talking about how these are a bunch of freeloaders, saying all these things that, J.D. Vance is saying, that we're paying more than you guys are paying, and they dispute the numbers, right? And then pissing off the Ukrainians, and then going after the Russians, I covered in my last video, and Wiley's going after the Russians, threaten Iran. And then saying he's going to own Gaza Strip and pissing off the Palestinians and these people. And then all the stuff he's doing with immigration, and, people are scared to leave the country on their visas because they're not going to be let back, and they're going to go through their social media and see if they're talking shit about America. Like, this is the kind of, censorship, and we'll get into that in a bit. So he's pissed off all these fucking people and people in the country, like, half the country. Like, half the fucking people are like, oh my God, you're doing all this shit, right? And, and should be everybody in the truth community, because he's a lying sack of shit. He's doing Israel's bidding. He's fucked all these things up, right? And there's things going on, like, the things that he's doing that's good. If Kennedy actually does some things that are anti-pharma, anti-big food, he's going to piss those people off that have a lot of power. And that's a good thing, but he's fighting too many battles, and he's pissed all these people off, trying to bully everybody in a country that the collective is, well, America's run its course. Like, that's the feeling by most people in the world that have power and money and influence, and by the people I call the controllers. And so, you're going about this the wrong fucking way, right? You need to make a case for your existence, not grab more resources. Like, you want more than 25% of the resources? Like, how much more do you want? Like, Trump saying we need a better deal. We're getting screwed over. We're getting screwed over by the world. World's been screwing us over for too long. And this fuck, right? Like, this guy's at least much, smarter IQ-wise than Trump, better educated and more thoughtful. And he's just, they're just all carrying Trump's water, which is Trump's major thing. Trump doesn't care how much you fuck up unless it embarrasses him, then he'll eventually fire you. If it becomes something where he has to throw somebody under the bus to preserve himself. But mostly, it's if you stay loyal. That's why he hasn't fired anybody for this signal gate. If you caught one of these people talking shit about him, possibly this guy, right? If he gets offended by something he says or Elon Musk says, or he thinks somebody's trying to steal his thunder, then yeah, he'll get rid of him. But other than that, like, he doesn't give a shit how bad you fuck America or fuck up relationships with the world, because Trump doesn't give a shit about that. Trump cares about Trump, right?
Says all the time, and as a lot of people recognize, is a president of peace. We want to have good relationships with everybody. That includes, even to the extent possible, the Chinese and the Russians. But part of having good relations is showing your strength when you have to. And unfortunately, the story of Greenland over the past 20 years when it comes to security is that we've underinvested in the infrastructure, we've underinvested in the security architecture, and we've underinvested in the...
That's more your taxpayers. So, there's other shit in here. I don't need to go through it. You guys get it. Like, it's just, I mean, they're saying all this shit about Europe, and Europe has a way to fuck America. Like, every country can fuck the other country. And, these countries are talking about America and what to do with each other. The other European countries are talking with China and Russia. They're all like, all right, this guy's fucking unhinged, and he's going for too much, and we got to fucking knock him back down a peg. They're talking with Canada. Canada has a relationship with Great Britain. I mean, the Queen can end Parliament at any time they want, right? So, Canada's in many ways, it's part of the British Commonwealth, and they expect Britain's going to back them. And Britain has all this, the center of the economic world. I mean, so there's a lot of ways America could easily be fucked over by Trump's, stupidity. Okay, so speaking of losers, this is Elon Musk going to Wisconsin. Comes out with a cheese head playing this song. Some Leonard Skinnerd. Why is he a fan of Leonard Skinnerd? So he comes out. Let's go back to what he says here. Jumps up and down. Does his thing. Here we go. So he's going to say something.
Everybody.
Woo! Woo! Look at this fucking stooge here, right?
Thanks for coming. What do you think of my hat?
Okay, so everyone knows it's called a cheese head. I don't think he knows anything about football or America because he's not born here. I mean, just what do you think of my hat? Look at him. Woo!
All right, I'm gonna sign the hat and I'm gonna throw it out.
So what's the market for a cheese head signed by Elon Musk? What's the going rate on eBay for an Elon Musk signed cheese head? Yeah, nice throw. Like, that's your guy. Like, this is the guy who's going to save the American economy, right? He's the richest person in the world at some point. What would make you think that these two hoarders, guys who hoard wealth, want to make you wealthy, want to make America great? Why want to, spread the wealth? Like, they're the opposite of that, right? They want to make more wealth for themselves. I mean, it's just, I'll come back to that. I'll cover that next video.
All right. All right, I love you guys too.
You do? You love them? You're capable of loving all these Wisconsiners?
Thanks for coming out in support of this very important Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. It's actually something that I think it's one of those things that may seem like it's obviously important in the state of Wisconsin, but I think it could actually be important for the country as well, and maybe
Yeah, because we're going to put all these Trump judges in there, so when Trump does his inevitable bullshit, right, and tries to seek a third term or any of these other things, we want to have as many judges on our side as possible. There's a point in here. Let me go to this other video clip.
As you may have seen with stuff that we've posted on the Doge.gov website and the Doge handle on the X platform, there is a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the federal government. Like, shocking, really. It's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's really wild. So
people are heckling him.
I mean, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience.
Soros operatives. Like, that's the only people that could possibly have a problem with Elon. Like, how many of your former employees, people who screwed over on one thing or another? I mean, just people just don't like you because you're weird. Or basically all the Democrats, right?
Give my regards to George. Say hi to George.
Say hi to George for me. Say hi to George. That's your guy. Watch this guy. Say hi to George. Give my regards to George.
Give my regards to George. Say hi to George from me. USA, USA, USA.
That's your guy. That's the guy that Trump's picked. Right? These weird motherfuckers.
USA. Yep.
Like, these are cartoon characters that are supposed to be saving the country, right? I mean, they're caricatures. They're Saturday Night Live characters that have, they're like the exaggeration of somebody, right? Mocking. They're mocking themselves.
I mean, it was inevitable. I was waiting for that one.
I was waiting for that one. That was a good one. I was waiting for it. George. Say hello to George.
So, I mean, yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, isn't it shocking how much violence and hatred is coming from the left?
That's crazy. They're so violent and hateful as we go and threaten war against Canada threaten to take over the Gaza Strip and bomb Iran. Yeah, they're so Democrats are so violent and hateful.
I mean, isn't it supposed to be the party that they claim to be the party of empathy, and yet they're burning Teslas and shooting up dealerships and calling for the
It's crazy. Why are they doing that? Why?
death of the president and me? I'm like, guys, this is insane. Like,
It's insane, guys. Why are you doing those? Well, guys, why are you guys saying you want me to die, guys?
Totally gone psycho. I mean, it's really.
All right. So people say this guy's a Mossad agent, but look, this droopy dog. Why so happy, bro? Calm down, bro. Why so excited?
And Chief of the Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. Jeffrey, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here after an extraordinary scoop and
Look, he's nervous. He's got this nervous fucking twitch.
week for you. We really appreciate it. I want to start with what we've been hearing from administration officials.
He's like a bobblehead. He can't stop fucking nodding.
Throughout the week, various excuses, explanations for how you were added to that Signal group chat. Take a listen to some of what we heard.
Maybe Goldberg found a way. Maybe there's a staffer. Maybe there's a very innocent staffer.
Very innocent staffer. The most innocent staffer. We have the most innocent staffers everywhere.
But I think we'll get to the bottom of it very quickly, and it's really not a big deal.
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated. I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets...
Yeah, because you're stupid. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. Like, I mean, I am not a meticulous person. Like, I could never be a secretary or administrator, a administrative assistant. Like, when I tested for my, whatever it is, those Myers-Briggs and different, types of tests, doing clerical jobs and detailed work and filling out forms is very hard for me. It's like draining. Like, I can do it, but it takes tremendous amount of energy and concentration. Like, it's just horrible. My brother and I were talking about this, and my dad was kind of a civil servant. He was a guidance counselor, and he did that kind of shit all day. But there's people who are good at that stuff and people who aren't. And, I'm not good at networking, any of these types of things. And I'm not very good at detailed things, right? I'm more of a, whatever. Sloppy, kind of. And I can't imagine doing that myself, right? Putting somebody else's contact to a number, because you get a number and you write down who the person is, like, immediately. You do it at that moment. And, like, you wouldn't just say, oh, I think this number is that guy, so I'm just going to put this guy's name to it, right? And especially on a chat like that, like, you have to be detail-oriented and it needs to be a stressful type of situation where you're stressed out that you might send it out to the wrong person. I mean, this is why you shouldn't even use an app like that. Like, it tells you everything you need to know, even if the app was secure and your phone was secure, which they certainly aren't. But, I mean, how the fuck do you even say that? Like, I talked about this before. Anyways.
Sucked in. You that
it gets
contact.
sucked in.
Gets sucked in.
Jeffrey, what do you make of those explanations?
This isn't the Matrix. Phone numbers don't just get sucked into other phones. I don't know what he's talking about there. Very frequently in journalism, the most obvious explanation is the explanation. My phone number was in his phone because my phone number is in his phone. He's telling everyone that he's never met me or spoken to me. That's simply not true. I understand why he's doing it, but...
So, the obvious thing is that they've talked before. And so why? Like, is this guy Mossad? Or do you talk regularly to someone who's the most vehement critic of Trump? I mean, sometimes these guys have to have their phone numbers or whatever, they verify things or whatever it is, right? But, that shows you that they're all some sort of same club. I never talked to that guy. I don't even know who that guy is. Who's that guy? I don't even know. I don't know how that guy's not on my phone. That guy isn't in my phone. like you're in high school or something. I wouldn't have that guy on my phone. Like, were they gay lovers? Like, is that why was he? Because to do it mistakenly, if you were doing it from recent contacts or something like that, he would have to be talking to this guy fairly regularly, and so that it's a whole nother like lie, and which we know. I mean, the whole thing could be a lie, but based on the official story, he was in the guy's phone. Like, that's just simple. He wasn't under somebody else's contact name, and so he sent it to this guy for a reason, and maybe it was intentional, and this guy's being thrown under the bus for something that's, they screwed him over. I mean, the Mossad or Israel screwed him over. Who knows what's going on here? I don't believe it, because I just don't believe this guy's Mossad. He might be. Who knows? I mean, like, that stuff you can't prove. There's just all these goofy rumors that are started in the truth community, and they just circulate with that and with no evidence to support it. But whatever reason he got included, either intentionally or unintentionally, the guy's number was in his phone. So, like, he should be fired just for. I mean, he's got a string of lies. For a guy who's taking responsibility for it.
This has become a somewhat farcical situation. There's no subterfuge here. My number was in his phone. He mistakenly added me to the group chat. There we go.
All right. Well, I do want to draw on your long history of covering.
Okay, so enough of Jeffrey Goldberg. But, I mean, the whole thing is like, shows you like that these are idiots, right? They're not geniuses. This isn't the act of geniuses. It's the act of idiots. They're not doing genius work. They're not coming up with visionary type of ideas. They're not sent by God. This is the other thing. People believe that God is sending people, Trump or somebody, or Trump and his people to save America. This is the whole Q narrative, like this is divinely orchestrated. Why would God do that? I want to cover that in the beginning of my next video. I want to talk about that in just a voiceover. But why would God do that? That's silly. Like, it's just the whole thing is silly, right? And so, like this is, they're not here to save you. They're here to destroy you, right? Like this is like aliens getting out off of a ship, and they're either going to help you or they're going to hurt you or they're going to enslave you. And in this case, they're going to enslave you.
President Trump is not ruling out the possibility of seeking a third term, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution's 22nd Amendment. He's joked about it at rallies.
It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times.
But now, in an exclusive phone interview with NBC's Kristen Welker, he says that there are, quote, methods for doing so, and that a lot of people want me to do it. Asked to clarify, he said, I'm not joking, but added it is far too early to think about it. Asked about one possible method, Vice President J.D. Vance running for president and then passing the baton if he won, Trump responding, quote, well, that's one, but there are others too. The president later speaking on Air Force One.
I don't want to talk about a third term now because no matter how you look at it, we got a long time to go.
President also threatening extra tariffs on Russian oil.
Okay, so he's 78 right now, so he's going to be 82 by the time he leaves. He's going to be I think the oldest president. What's Biden now? I think Biden's 80, 2 years older than Trump. So Biden, when he left office, was 80. Trump is going to pass him as the oldest president in his 3rd year of this term. His 4th year, he'll be even older. And then he'd be by far the oldest. Him and Biden were the 2 oldest candidates to ever run. And so they're already way too old. And, you start losing as you get older. You don't have the energy. And he's not really president. He doesn't give about shit. He's doing crazy stuff, but people are doing it for him. And then, he's being managed and handled and all those things. But if he won at 82, he would leave at 86. And, Jesus Christ. So, but aside from that, he's an incompetent boob. And he's pushing every limit. Like he's even talking about. Like he's not, And I think he's going to be beaten down by the end of his term. And I think age will set in and, whatever. I think he'll be curled up in the fucking fetal position with all the stuff that goes down. He might not even make it to us, with World War III impending. We might have that fucking creep J.D. Vance as president. We'll see what happens, but, things are going to go down. I'm sure that's going to be a lot worse than people can even imagine because it's already fucked up now. Like, things are getting really weird, and not in a good way, right? Just they keep on getting weirder and weirder. Okay, so this is Rachel Ziegler. Don't know what nationality that is, but I can guess. She's in Snow White. And I just saw this one video. It's like the 10 worst comments she made about Snow White. And I'm not going to show you that video because it was annoying, that music and things. But she has all these comments that she hates the idea of Snow White. Said she cried when she saw her name on the poster, the movie poster as Snow White. And she dislikes the story. And she doesn't. Well, let's hear what she has to say here first.
Of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Because she's so much more progressive and better than the people then.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
The Prince. So you don't like the story of Snow White, but yet you started Snow White. I wonder why it failed epically.
So we didn't do that this time.
No. I know that you've told me before.
And she gets into it. There's all these things she says that she hates the story, and I don't care about the story. I think all of Disney's stories are creepy and Illuminati and devil worshipping and pedo. There's all just creepy stuff in a lot of Disney stories. They reworked a lot of. I think they bought those Hans Christian Andersen stories or some of those European stories. Of course, the guy who wrote A.A. Milne, who wrote Winnie the Pooh, was furious at what they did with Winnie the Pooh, right? They just changed all the characters and, they made them very Sometimes they adultify it and a lot of things with orphans, a lot of creepy shit, right? And so I'm not a big fan of Disney, and yet I wouldn't be starting a Disney movie, right? Like if you don't like the fucking story, and it's considered a classic, you don't shit all over it, right? But and then expect to do well in the box office. Plus, they did whatever modernization feminist stuff, which always makes things much better, right? Which always does well in the box office. And so, this is hilarious. Like they cast somebody who hates Snow White and cried when she realized that her name was going to be associated with Snow White because she starred in the movie. And she thinks the prince is a stalker. And so, I wonder why it failed. So this came up. This is this thing called binaural beats. And it's associated with the heartfulness scam. The Sajmark system of meditation is vibrationally based, right? Everything's energy and vibrationally based, right? And vibrations are, they're important to every aspect of your life and in terms of like your moods and all these things, right? And they put this goofy music behind talks by Daji and other things, meditations, and it's just the opposite of the, grosser vibrations will always overwhelm more subtle ones. And so that's why God isn't more prevalent, because God is the most subtle vibration, right? Almost non-detectable. That's why God is considered peaceful, right? But, when you put loud music, I mean, there was a time my family and I went to, me and my two kids, we got back to America. There's this great Red Rock Park near Vegas that people don't know about. And we used to go there quite a bit. And a lot of nice places out there. That wonderful red rock that you see in Utah and Arizona and Nevada. And one day we went there, and some guy brought an old-fashioned boombox, and he's playing this shitty frickin' urban music, right? And it's blasting. It's like it's almost as bad as like playing heavy metal. But we're all there, and it's peaceful as hell. But the music is, it destroys the peace, right? And so, whenever you add crap like this to something that's good, not that the heartfulness stuff with Daji was good, it wrecks it. But here's the deep sleep third eye chakra binaural beats. Do not listen to this while driving or operating heavy machinery. Theta binaural beats will induce a state of deep, relaxed hypnosis and is clearly proven to affect human brain waves, inducing a state of deep relaxation and sleep. Hypnosis is very heavy. If you come out of a hypnotic state, you're going to feel heavy because, it's somebody taking control of you. It's just not a good thing. It's certainly nothing like samadhi, which is a spiritual state. But I just want to say there's a lot of bullshit like this out there. So I saw this and about vibrations. This came up on Facebook. And they put music behind it, like frickin' morons. It's very interesting what the frogs are doing here, right? And we saw this with my, frogs in my pond and things in my last video. But, this is like goofy. Why put music behind? It's the same stupid shit, right? You're adding vibrations to vibrations. Anyways, funny how people use Wi-Fi radios, X-rays, and satellites. They think use of our energy frequency and vibrations are somehow mystical nonsense. I had a book when I was a kid called Nature Thought of It First. It's all the inventions and man-made things that were actually replicas of something that nature had already built. Pretty much every idea is something that already, people don't have original thought and ideas like they think they do. They're just, whatever. Okay, so I got a little extra time here. I might as well cover some of these comments. There's one I particularly wanted to get to, and it's the following. Well, first of all, somebody left me a comment saying that they didn't like the other parts of my video. They like the spiritual stuff, and they really like the Journey series, and they're really bummed out that the Journey series is behind a paywall. And, I've explained this before, and, it's for the membership stuff, right? And I don't care if people are members or not. I mean, of course, I want people to be members, and I need to have some sort of support because I just don't make enough from the ads anymore from YouTube and, all this stuff. And the shadow ban, I don't even like talking about that stuff. And I did it for a while. I was pretty good at doing something I don't like to do. Talking about the shadow ban stuff. I want to have another conversation with the bots. I think YouTube's a little bit better. I'm still making less money than I deserve, right? Somebody else posted something about, they liked my content, but they didn't want to see me sell out or, be more successful in terms of money and viewers. But the person was almost implying like I should get compensated less than, people who do inferior work, right? So like that's, that's not the American way. And we need money to live, and this is, part of it. And it's part of the Sajmark system that, you need to live in both worlds, and so whatever it is. But in terms of people subscribing or not, or people contributing or not, or any of these things or people trying the gratefulness meditation, I don't want people doing it for me. I want them doing it because they think this has value and they get something out of it, and they realize that, without some sort of support and contribution, I mean, it could be something like praying or, like my channel needs to be kept afloat by, some sort of contribution. It'd be great if the YouTube ads covered it and YouTube wasn't shadow banning me and whatever. And so that's why I've had to, but that's not the case. So that's why I've had to go with the membership program. But if you don't want to be a member, fine. Like but don't whine to me about, don't expect me to do more or take less, right? Whatever you do is your business, but don't fucking, complain about something and, whatever, like lament being behind a paywall. And I said, it's $4 a month. And even homeless people can come up with $4 a month, right? Like I'm not saying like that you should, but people waste money on all kinds of things. Like, if you think about what you waste money on and, if this has value to you and you want to have it, then purchase it. But don't complain to me about like, like I'm supposed to give this shit out for free or whatever, right? Like it's just, I mean, it's, you don't go into any other business and say, hey, I really like these things, but I just wish they were free, right? You go to a car dealership and say, I really like this car. I really like it a lot. It's just I can't believe it costs money, so, like, I don't want to hear that shit, right? Like, don't bug me with it. It's not my problem. It's your problem. Like, you have a dilemma. There's something costs money and you can't afford it or you don't want to pay for it, then that's fine. Like, you make a decision, but don't go to the other person and expect them to deal with your situation, right? Fix your situation. That's your problem, not mine. And so the person said, then somebody left this comment, I haven't watched your videos in a while, and I just remembered you, so I come back, and there's a 40-minute rant about how I should buy the Journey series. Brilliant. And it's a, sarcastic brilliant, I would assume. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. Because the thing that they said is, and here's a 40-minute rant about how I should buy your Journey series. Now, if this was a person who left the comment, then, like, that's fucked up because it's obvious that I was answering their situation. You were the one who said you wanted it, but, that person's banned, so I don't know if they have a second channel, but I don't think it's that person. So I think this is somebody else who has said that they haven't been here a while, and they come in to listen to my video, and the first 20 minutes of that, whatever it was not about this person's comment. Like I said at the end. So it wasn't a 40-minute rant. The whole thing was probably 20 minutes long. Like it was an introduction, maybe 30. And the first half or the first 2/3 of it was about something else. And then I read the comment and I said the things I just said. But this is the thing, I just dislike liars and the lying in the comments. Like if I can read a 3-sentence comment and I know you're fucking lying, right? Because, if it's the first person, I mean, both things are inaccurate description of what I was saying. What I was saying to the people is, like, I wouldn't pay for the Journey series. I mean, I don't have to, but I don't listen to them. I'm not going to go back and listen to my Journey series later on. A lot of stuff is just painful. I mean, there's things in there that are straight up spiritual and these other things, but I already have access to that information. There's things in it that I might save in particular spots because I might use them again, Like there's the dream with Chargy in it, of making me a preceptor, some of these other things, that I say for specific reasons. Other than that, I'm not going to come back and re-listen to it. Most of it's going to be painful. The stuff that's personal, stuff that I've gone through, not so much painful, but, it's not like I really want to relive that or rethink about it. It has maybe value for other people, but, I've moved on. Some of the early Journey series that are not up there now and I'm going to republish at some point are like 9 hours long. Like, that's fucked, right? 9 hours long. And so people listened to every minute of it. Like, it was kind of shocking to me, but they found it interesting. They found it helpful. But not all my viewers find it interesting. Not all my viewers are there for it. I moved it for members when I got copyrighted by Heartfulness. So that's why it ended up there. And now, it's just, I'm making so much content anyway. And so it's really there for people who are, diehard, fans of the show. And it's not, like some kind of thing where I'm putting it behind a paywall just to screw people. But I never once said to what this person said. Let me read the comment again. Where the person said, a 40-minute rant, again, exaggerating the time. It was like 10 minutes and it wasn't a rant. So that's a lie. About how I should buy the Journey series. I never said you should buy it. I said that if you liked it, don't ask me to pay for it for you. Don't ask for a freebie. If it's benefiting you and it has some value to you, then, pay the $4 a fucking month. And you don't have to, you could subscribe for half the year and catch up on the Journey series. And then, or whatever. Listen to them all in 1 month or whatever. You figure it out, right? But don't ask for, come and whine to me about needing a handout or freebie when I'm already giving generously. That's what's my point of what I said. It had nothing to do with any of these things. I said anybody can come up with $4 a month, right? People waste money. $4 is almost nothing now, right? Just with inflation. And so, people get something at Starbucks that costs like $6 now, or $5 or whatever. Like people buy shit like that every day as part of their routine. And, if your cafe latte has more value than the Journey series, then why are you even complaining to me, right? Or whatever. I don't know what the person spends money on or not. But this other person shows up, and Jesus, can you believe the fucking luck? I haven't watched your videos in a while, and I just remembered you. So I come back, and there's a 40-minute rant about how I should buy the Journey series. Brilliant. And what the fuck is the bad luck with this guy? The liars, they often say this kind of thing. I was coming back to you because I thought that maybe you had something worthwhile to say. I haven't listened to you in a while. I'm coming back, though. I left for some reason, which unbeknownst to me and you, because I'm not going to discuss that, but for some reason I've been away for a while. And now I come back, and God nabbit, there's a fucking, you telling me for 40 minutes I should buy the Journey series. Brilliant. Like these kind of whiny, bitchy little comments, and this is, addressed to me, right? They want me to hear this. Like, why the fuck do you want me? Why are you including me in this weird fucking bitchy shit? I don't care if you buy the Journey series or not. I don't care if you, these things. I'm certainly not wanting people to do it. Like, I don't whine to you guys in this way and say, help me, and begging you with an inferior product, right? What I say is I'm not making enough money. Like, I'm not getting compensated enough to call this a legitimate job. I'm not making what I need to make and what I should make, which is $100 a day, which is not a lot of money for somebody who has, my credentials or whatever I do in terms of I have a master's degree in counseling and things. I could be compensated in other fields. Even as a farmer, I could generate more money. Of course, I don't have the physical strength to do as much of that as I used to. But either way, right, this is, I'm not making enough money, right? I think I get about $1,000 a month from donations from people, which is great, which I appreciate. And then, less than $2,000 from YouTube. I was making more money before, and I never said anything about this. I didn't, when I was making enough money from YouTube, I didn't even have a membership program. People wanted the merch, and I worked on the merch. I don't know if they thought the merch sucked or just isn't, whatever, but I don't talk about the merch. I'm not a businessman. But this is the situation. So if this has value to you, and you have enough money to contribute, and you are getting something from me, then it would behoove you to give something back, right? And I'm not, that's between you and God and, whatever your fucking, whatever goes on in your internal life or whatever. But either way, I'm not saying what you should do or not do. I'm saying what the situation is. Like if I, and again, I'm making a little bit more money from YouTube now. So it's a little bit better, still under what my bare minimum. My bare minimum is $100 a day. And that's with me working 7 days a week. That's me making a video pretty much every day, all year, sometimes 2 hours of content or whatever. But I'm not selling it to people. Like if the thing isn't worth enough, if it isn't worth, like I can't, retain an audience and whatever, YouTube lines up against me, all these things. I'll do this more as a, I could do that's just the spiritual stuff. Like I could say, do an hour just, where I don't have to go and spend time and do research and find articles and do all the stuff that I'm doing. Like I could go to just, talking about things, once or twice a week or go back to the way I used to do it. I mean, there's always these options, right? But right now, I wanted to get through this winter and it ended up picking up a little bit, so I haven't had to deal with it. I was going to deal with it in January. But weirdly enough, like December's always the best money, especially in election year. I made 4 times that like in 2020, I believe. And then this election year was like just dismal. But YouTube, I think, changed their policies, or maybe they upgraded my channel a little bit, so I'm getting a little bit better ads. I mean, I don't know. Like it's just like I said, I'm not a businessman. But whatever you do is your problem. But just don't dump your problems on me in these petty little stupid lying comments, right? I just, I've been away for so long, and I don't know. I thought I'd come back, and here you are talking, trying to tell me to buy the Journey series. Like what are you whining about? Is this why is this worthy of your time? Certainly isn't worthy of my time, but why is this worthy of your time, right? Like just nobody told you to come back, right? You left because of whatever reason you left, and I don't believe the person left. I think this is just people think of new and creative ways to make you feel bad or to try to get you in some like weird way, right? But according to this person's official story, they left of their own volition. They thought about me for some reason, came back, and they didn't like what I had to say, and they said, well, I'll just drop this shitty little comment on you, right? Like, why do that? And this is, like, the internet's filled with this shit, right? Emotionally manipulative, sanctimonious, whining, entitled little fucking comments. Nobody gives a shit about you, right? Nobody cares about you. Like, even if they said they do, they don't. Like J.D. Vance or Elon Musk saying he loves everybody. I love you guys too. People don't know you. How can you love somebody you don't know? Like you love them because they're cheering you, or they're out in your audience, or you got to say you love them. Like I don't know most of you. I mean, it's very few people I know, and like maybe very limited in terms of my interactions with people. Only a few people, and I've ever, in terms of who watch my videos, I've ever really interacted with, other than in the comment section. I've only met a few people in real life. And I don't really know the people all that much, right? Like I know a little bit about them, acquaintances level people. And, I talk a lot here, so you guys know me a lot better, and you can like me, dislike me, whatever, and I might play a bigger part in your life. But you only know the part of me that talks to myself into a microphone with my 2 dogs sitting on the bed, right? It's not, it's not part and parcel to my whole existence. I may give a lot of information. But if I stopped making the videos and, or died or whatever happened to me, something happened, I just disappeared, you'd be sad, but your life would go on. Like you're not, it's not the end of the world. I mean, some people, very few people would be, this would be like a real bummer for them. And, that's, that's good that there's some value I have that would be enough so people would miss what I have to say. But your life would go on, right? Your life would, it certainly wouldn't stop. It would be, an inconvenience, and you just spend your time differently, right? The stuff with the Saj Marg and the spiritual stuff, I mean, things that I say here are unique, so there's that. But, people could seek that out because, you could get, the energy you can get through the Gratefulness meditation and the video clips that are, remain on that channel, and just all of it, right? So, it's, it's no big deal. Like this. People think that everything's so serious about what their work that they're doing or they're contributing. But, everybody dies eventually. And even the greatest saints and the highest developed souls die. And so many people miss them. And, they affected so many people. And they're forgotten, right? In a short period of time, they're forgotten. The life goes on. The planet keeps on on spinning. It's just not fucking a big deal. You know, you think that your petty little whines and your little, entitlements and the things and inconveniences, nobody wants to hear that shit. No one wants to hear your complaints. I mean, very few people want to hear other people complain about shit, right? Only if it's something universally that we're all feeling or whatever it is. And they're like, yeah, I feel the exact same way. And it makes you, this whole thing. It's like the camaraderie of complainers. But other than that, these whiny little comments that just, pollute the internet are just totally unnecessary. Anyways, just, my 2 cents. Only spirituality will save this world. It's part of it. Definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.